Hello and welcome to the Worker Environmental Awareness Training Program for the Cross Valley and Calero Pipeline Project. This training is provided by Alluvian Biological Consulting. Now this training has four broad objectives. Hopefully by the end of this presentation, you'll be familiar with all four of these points. First, we're going to cover the definition and implications of take. Then we'll move on to your responsibilities if you encounter a regulated species. We'll have a brief introduction to the protected species associated with this project, and then we'll go over some general mitigation measures that need to be followed in order to prevent any incidents of take. We'd like to emphasize that this training is meant to supplement, not replace, the training information handouts that you should have received before watching this video. If you have not received a training pamphlet or booklet, please request one from your supervisor or on-site alluvian biologist. Let's start by discussing take. Take is a broadly defined term, and under the Federal Endangered Species Act, take means to harass, harm, pursue, hunt, shoot, wound, kill, capture, collect, or attempt to engage in any such conduct. Now, penalties for take will vary from species to species. However, any individual found to be committing unsanctioned take may be dealt hefty fines, and in some cases up to a year in jail time. These penalties are assessed for each instance of unsanctioned take. So what should you do if you encounter a regulated species on the project? The very first thing you should do is ensure that you do not touch or approach the animal. You should then immediately suspend work within the area the animal is found, especially if this work would result in take. Your next step is to notify your supervisor or the on-site biologist. If a biologist is not on site, please contact Gennaro Lockhart at the number listed on this slide and in your training materials. Unless otherwise noted in your materials, a 100-foot no-work buffer will need to be established around the species of concern until it either moves off the project site of its own volition or until permission is received from regulatory agencies to reduce or eliminate the no-work buffer. The next few slides will give you a brief overview of all of the listed and regulated species that occur on this project site. California tiger salamander is a large salamander species identifiable by the white to yellow bars that pattern its back. California tiger salamanders will emerge from burrows in early fall and winter during nights of high humidity or rain, but may be active at other times within their burrow systems. Their breeding starts in November, with adults migrating long distances in search of suitable breeding sites with still water. Females may lay as many as 1,300 eggs, which they attach to either vegetation or objects on the pond bottom near the pond's edge. Individuals reach sexual maturity at 4 to 5 years, and young hatch from their eggs in 10 to 14 days, taking about 2 to 3 months to metamorphose. Juveniles leave their breeding pond immediately after metamorphosis. California red-legged frog is a true frog with characteristic smooth skin and a narrow waist. Adults may attain a length of 8 centimeters, and individuals have dark facial masks and a single light stripe along their jawlines. Their skin is brown or reddish-brown, and this species has a readily apparent dorsolateral fold, unlike the bullfrog which has none. This species requires still waters for breeding and is rarely found at any great distance from aquatic breeding sites. Ponds, marshes, or stream pools are essential for the species. Moreover, it has a clear preference for thickly vegetated shorelines, laying its eggs at or near the water's edge. A variety of bird species have been found nesting in or immediately adjacent to Caltrans right-of-ways. Nest sites are often placed in crevices, cavities, seams, or weep holes within bridges. Other nests are constructed on open, vertical cement surfaces on bridges. The species that utilize man-made structures as nest sites tend to be more tolerant of urban conditions, otherwise known as increased noise, light, vibration, and even human presence. But they can nonetheless be sufficiently disturbed during construction or maintenance activities to cause nest abandonment or inattentiveness, which would result in the death or loss of eggs or juveniles. Incubation and brood rearing require approximately 4 to 5 weeks for smaller birds, but can take up to 12 weeks for larger birds like raptors. Any active bird nests found within or adjacent to the project area will require a mandatory 100-foot no-work buffer until it can be confirmed that the chicks have fledged and left the nest. Any raptor nests will require a 500-foot no-work buffer. Tricolor blackbird is a medium-sized passerine bird with a conical beak. Male breeding plumage is almost entirely black and carries a distinctive red shoulder patch bordered by white fringe. These blackbirds can be found nesting in freshwater wetland vegetation as well as agricultural fields, and their diet consists primarily of insects and seeds. This species forms the largest nesting colonies of any passerine bird, with a 10-acre area containing between 50 to 20,000 nests. Nests are built in dense vegetation with plenty of cover, and breeding takes place from mid-April to late July. Females rear up to 2 broods of 4 chicks per nesting season. Incubation can last up to 2 weeks, with another 2 weeks required for nestlings to fledge. Bald eagle is a large and fairly distinctive raptor species. With the exception of its white head, the plumage is brown and the feet and beaks of mature birds are yellow. It primarily inhabits old-growth forests adjacent to large water bodies. This species range extends across most of North America, including all of the continental United States. It nests in a wide variety of locations, including trees, cliff faces, cactuses, and mangroves. Nests are among the world's largest for birds, measuring 5 to 6 feet in diameter and 2 to 4 feet tall. Bald eagles form long-term pair bonds that may last until death, but can spend most of the migrating and winter seasons apart. Mating in California takes place from January through July, and females lay clutches of 1 to 3 eggs, incubating for about 35 days. Chicks fledge after 11 to 12 weeks. Golden eagle is one of the largest birds in North America. Adults can reach lengths of over 2.5 feet with a 7-foot wingspan. Plumage is almost entirely brown with some gold sheen around the head and neck. They have broad wings and a small head relative to their body size. Golden eagles can be found throughout California. However, population densities are higher in the southern portion of the state. They prefer high elevation, open country with low and scattered vegetation. Nests are large and can be up to 9 feet in diameter and are usually constructed on cliffs or bluffs. However, they may be found in a variety of man-made structures that provide suitable views of the surrounding hunting grounds. Breeding takes place from late January through August. Clutch sizes range from 1 to 3 eggs, and they're incubated for approximately 44 days, and chicks fledge after 65 to 70 days. White-tailed kite is a medium-sized raptor, 13 to 15 inches in length, with a long white tail, a gray back, and white facial feathers. Adults have red eyes, while juveniles have yellow eyes, and all individuals have a distinctive black spot beneath each wing wrist, in addition to a sharply hooked beak. White-tailed kites may inhabit a wide range of habitats, including savanna, marshes, cultivated lands, desert, and woodlands. This species feeds almost exclusively on small mammals, and in California, white-tailed kites are commonly associated with agricultural lands. They frequently nest on the tops of trees in stands adjacent to open foraging area. Mating takes place from February to October, and clutch size typically ranges from 4 to 5 eggs. With an incubation period of 28 to 32 days, chicks usually fledge after about 38 days. Loggerhead shrike is a medium-sized passerine bird with a hooked beak and a relatively large head compared to its body size. Adults are gray with black masks and white throats. This species is found throughout the foothills and lowlands of California, preferring open country with short vegetation and well-spaced shrubs or low trees. Loggerhead shrikes frequently impale large prey items on thorns or barbed wire, and this behavior creates stores of food in larders for consumption during the winter season. Their diet consists of grasshoppers, beetles, and rodents. However, this species is known to prey on a wide range of animals and can kill and carry prey as massive as itself. Shrikes build nests in dense, thorny vegetation, and females may have up to 2 broods of 5 to 6 eggs per year. Incubation lasts 15 to 17 days, with a 16 to 20 day nestling period. Yellow warbler is a small yellow bird, 4 to 5 inches tall, with black eyes and in some cases yellow to greenish coloration on their back. Adult males may also have red streaks on their chest. Nests are open and cup-like and typically located in thicket areas near bodies of water. Females will lay around 3 to 6 spotted greenish-white eggs and incubate them for 11 to 12 days. Males will perform a fluttering display to defend the nest if they perceive a threat. Bryant savanna sparrow is a California endemic race of the wider-spread savanna sparrow. These birds are often found in open field areas, foraging on the ground or low in shrubs and trees. Savanna sparrows' coloration patterns are highly variable, and they may be easily confused with other co-occurring species. Nest sites are usually on the ground and hidden within grass or debris. There's usually a single tunnel entrance to the nest, which is an open cup of grass. Females will lay 2 to 6 white, pale tan, or green eggs with brown spots. Eggs will need incubation for approximately 12 to 13 days and will hatch and fledge after an additional 8 to 13 days. Savanna sparrows can have as many as 4 clutches of eggs per year, and they're year-round residents but breed mostly in April through July. Grasshopper sparrow is a 4 to 5 inch tall passerine bird that can be found in open pastures and fields. They're distinctively small for sparrows, as well as having a flat head and a large bill. They forage for grasshoppers and other insects, but will switch to seeds when insects are less abundant. They tend to avoid overgrown areas and will nest at ground level at the base of grass or low brush. Their nest is a dome of grass and sedges lined with other finer materials and can be 5 inches in width and 3 inches tall. Females will lay about 2 to 7 eggs and incubate for about 2 weeks. Females will have 2 to 4 broods per year and breed throughout the spring and the summer. Western burrowing owl is a small, brown, mottled owl that stands about 7 to 9 inches in height. True to its name, the burrowing owl nests in a hole in the ground. Although it's quite willing to dig its own burrow, it often uses one that's already provided by prairie dogs, skunks, ground squirrels, or other wildlife. Burrowing owls require habitat with open, well-drained terrain, short, sparse vegetation, and underground burrows. During the breeding season, they may also need enough permanent cover and taller vegetation within their foraging range to provide them with sufficient prey. Because of this, burrowing owls can occupy a wide range of habitats, including grasslands, agricultural areas, urban vacant lots, as well as the margins of airports. Breeding in California can start as early as January and continue through September. The peak of breeding is in April. Burrowing owls can lay anywhere between 1 to 11 eggs. The young hatch in about 30 days and fledge after 45 days. They will remain at the burrow for some time, foraging at night with the adults until they're ready to fledge on their own. Chinook salmon is the largest species of salmon found in the United States. Apart from their size, adults can be identified by the black spots on their back, as well as on their dorsal, adipose, and tail fins. The gums are usually dark at the base of the teeth, and breeding individuals range in color between olive brown to purple. Chinook salmon are anadromous, which means they're born in fresh water, then migrate to the ocean, and then return as mature adults to freshwater to their natal streams to spawn. Breeding adults die shortly after spawning, but eggs are deposited within coarse gravel in streams and fast-flowing water. And depending on the water temperature, eggs may hatch after 90 to 150 days. Young fry will remain up to 2 years in streams before migrating to the ocean to complete the majority of their growth. Steelhead is an anadromous Pacific salmon species, typically 19 to 13 inches in length. The breeding coloration for this species looks like that of coho salmon. However, steelhead males do not develop the hook-shaped mouth as coho salmon do. Steelhead also look noticeably slimmer than other salmonids. Steelheads are anadromous, born in freshwater, migrating to the ocean, and returning as mature adults to their natal streams to spawn. Most breeding adults die shortly after spawning, although 9% of individuals are repeat spawners. Eggs are deposited within gravel beds and streams with fast-flowing water. And depending on the water temperature, eggs hatch after 21 to 28 days. Young fry will remain up to 3 years in these streams and lakes before migrating to the ocean to complete the majority of their growth. Bay checkerspot butterfly is about 2 inches wide with wings that have black veins and bright red, white, and yellow spots. Adult butterflies emerge from late February through early May, and females will lay eggs from March through April. 200 to 250 eggs are laid at once at the base of a dwarf plantain, owl's clover, or paintbrush. Eggs hatch after 10 days, and after feeding for a few weeks, the larvae will lie in a dormant state throughout the summer. In the fall, they will continue feeding and will complete their life cycle. Larvae feed mostly on the dwarf plantain plant, and adult butterflies will consume nectar from the flowers of the same plant. Suitable habitat and plant assemblages exist for this species within and immediately adjacent to the project area. American badger is a flat-bodied, short-legged mammal weighing up to 24 pounds. Its feet are equipped with webbed toes and 1.5-inch claws to aid in digging burrows. It bears silvery gray fur over most of its body, with black fur on its legs and a patterning of black and white fur across its face. This species is found throughout the state of California in habitats that provide pliable soil and shrub-like vegetation. Badgers are nocturnal, taking refuge in burrows for the majority of the day, and they frequently repurpose abandoned burrows for shelter. This species is carnivorous, feeding on a variety of rodents throughout the year, and females give birth to litters of 2 to 3 pups. Northwestern pond turtle is a medium-sized, dark brown to olive brown to blackish turtle, measuring 3.5 to 8.5 inches in length. This species can be identified from the lines and spots that radiate from the center of its scutes, and the scutes are the bony plates on the back of the shell. Males tend to have a light throat with no markings and a relatively flat shell, while females may exhibit dark markings around the throat and have a noticeably taller shell. They typically inhabit ponds and creeks, hibernating underwater for several months during the winter. Breeding takes place in April and May. Females will climb onto land to dig their nests along the water margin, and clutch size ranges from 2 to 11 eggs, with a gestation period of around 80 to 100 days. Turtle hatchlings will remain in the nest chamber until the following spring before emerging to feed. Coast horned lizard has a flat, oval-shaped body about 2.5 to 5 inches long. The body and tail have pointed scales resembling horns, and it bears a crown of horns or spines around its head. Its coloration varies from reddish to brown to yellow or gray, with dark spots and patterning throughout. And the underside has smooth scales and is usually cream to yellow in color with darker spots. This species is most active during warm parts of the day and will seek refuge underground during cold or extreme heat. The reproductive season is May through June, with females typically laying 6 to 21 eggs. Coast horned lizards occupy open, dry areas with sandy, loose soils and often around low-growing vegetation. This species can be found in grasslands, forests, or along dirt roads, and are frequently observed near anthills. Hall's bush mallow is a shrub species endemic to California. Individual plants may reach 3 meters in height, and both the leaves and branches of this species are covered with fine hairs. The flowers are lavender to purple and typically bloom from May to July. Hall's bush mallow is frequently associated with chaparral habitats in Santa Clara County, and 5 individuals of this species have been identified and flagged along access roads for this project. Smooth lozenge is an annual herb endemic to California. This species has thin, spindly stems and bears small flowers that range in color from white to lavender to purple. It typically blooms from August through September, and individual plants can reach a maximum height of approximately 2 feet. It's mostly limited to serpentine habitats within Santa Clara County and may also be found on occasion in road cuts or other disturbed habitats. 2 populations of the species have been mapped and flagged along the project area. Now we'll go over some of the key species protection measures for this project. These slides won't comprise an exhaustive list of necessary protective measures, but they should give you a good idea of what's expected of you. There are several general protective measures that need to be followed on this project. I'll go over these quickly, but you should review these measures in your training materials. First of all wildlife should be allowed to leave the job site unharmed. This includes any animals that don't carry state or federal protections. To prevent wildlife entrapment on the project, all excavations, and this includes trenches, holes, and pits, need to be covered at the end of each workday. If covering an excavation is not practical, earthen or wooden escape ramps need to be installed. Additionally, all litter, construction debris, and food-related waste generated on the site needs to be contained in sealed trash containers and removed from the construction area daily. Containing food waste is especially important, as these items tend to attract wildlife, which could ultimately cause project delays. During construction operations, stockpiling of construction materials, portable equipment, vehicles, and supplies needs to be restricted to the designated construction staging areas. The same goes for access roads into and out of the work area. Finally, restrict the disturbance of vegetation outside the work area to the minimum extent possible. In addition to the general measures, there are several additional protective measures outlined in your training materials. These include rules for erosion control, hazardous materials management, noise control, vegetation management, and valley habitat plan conditions. We won't have enough time to cover these today, so please review these items in your training materials. We'll finish up here with some important takeaways from this presentation. Perhaps the most important takeaway is remembering what your responsibilities are if you see a regulated species within the project site. Don't touch or approach regulated wildlife and immediately report encounters to your supervisor or the on-site biologist. Keep your training materials somewhere where you can readily access them. If an animal wanders onto the construction site and you're unsure whether it's a cause for concern, your booklets contain the necessary contact information and procedures to follow in order to protect yourself and your company. It is important to remember that you and your company are wholly responsible for following the measures in this training video and its associated training materials, as well as the permits and specifications for this project. So please revisit this video and your training materials as needed. This concludes the Biological Resources Information Program training video. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions about what's been covered in this presentation or your training materials, please direct them to your on-site alluvian biologist.